What's going on YouTube? Username Kite562 here, and I have my final review of the Orochi series, and this is Orochi Volume 4 in the Perfect Edition by Kazuo Umezz. Now again, Orochi is written by Kazuo Umezz and illustrated by him and published by Viz Media. So anyway, as I said before in this video, this is the final volume, Volume 4. And just look at how gorgeous it turned out. This volume contains 2 stories, Eyes and Blood. And as always, give me a minute here. I always get the front and the back side a little confused, but this version is absolutely gorgeous. And as always with the volumes, there's a splash page, and some more interior art. This is a picture of one of the protagonists. That's Keiko Taguchi. And of course on this side right here is the 2 stories, Eyes and Blood, Volume 4. And here's my favorite art piece from this story. And again, this volume contains only 2 stories, along with this review being of my own opinion. So let's get on with it. As stated for the upteenth time, Orochi Volume 4 is the final volume, and it contains stories Eyes and Blood. Now with the story Eyes, I've written up my own summary of it, but I made sure to keep it as spoiler free as possible so it wouldn't ruin the experience for new readers. So for Eyes, Keiko Taguchi is a young girl who was born blind, but is very independent with her keen and heightened senses. Now, with this story, it turns into a murder mystery. See, her father works at a chemical factory, and then he ends up getting framed for a murder, which it could have been caused by this mysterious man, so Keiko and her friend Satoru end up investigating this man, and it just turns into a wild thriller of a story, and I thought it was a really enjoyable experience. And I have to say, my favorite panels from this story had to be through pages 89 through 102. Like, the way that the shadows were illustrated was really solid and really aggressive, and I just thought it was a really wonderful experience overall. So again, I have to say, the first note that I want to make, I enjoyed that Keiko was a very strong protagonist, even though she had the struggles of the neighborhood's disbelief, because, again, this girl was blind, and she was the only witness to a murder that happened in the Taguchi residence, which she goes to a school for the blind, so it doesn't really say her age, but I'm just gonna say she's like a high school upperclassman, like a junior or senior. So that's all I can really tell from this story, but she seems really independent. Like, it's really interesting how her house as a whole was laid out before this horrible incident happened and unfolded. Like, she has knives in a particular place where she memorized everything, certain objects are in a particular place, and if something's off miss, she'll figure it out. And I just thought it was really intriguing and really interesting how well depicted a blind person is within this story. I mean, of course, I have a friend who's blind. It's just really interesting. So, all in all, Eyes is a really solid opener of a story for this final volume of Orochi, and every page had me at the edge of my seat. So, at the end of the day, my final thoughts is that Keiko Eyes was a really solid experience of a thriller in the middle act. Mainly, again, on pages 89 through 102, since that's like the final climax of the story. It really had me gripped with the story because it really reminded me of a really solid thriller with a nice twist. Like, you have Keiko's father who works at a chemical plant on like company housing of like a bunch of the same looking homes. I think they're supposed to be like modular homes or something. But all in all, it was really solid and really well illustrated for the first story, that is Eyes. So, yeah, it's a really enjoyable volume. But for the second story, Blood, a young sister named Risa and her older sister's name, Kazusa. Every time that I was writing down notes for this story, I kept on saying Kazuya for some strange reason, but I fixed that with re-editing these notes of mine. But anyway, this story mainly revolves around this pair of sisters named Risa, the younger sister, and Kazusa, the older sister, who bears the responsibility of the Monzen family, which this family is really high up there in the 70s kind of time period of this story, and they live in a mansion, and the two sisters would always explore this mansion together, hand in hand. Really wholesome, but I have to say, I really fucking hated their mother with the burning fucking passion of my every fiber of my being, so pardon my French. It's just the way that the mother treated Risa was just really over the line. Like, she would smack her around, always comparing her to her older sister, and then that would cause Risa to throw tantrums. And oh no, this mother character just really pissed me off. But like, as I got through this story, it really took a really strange turn in a good way, and it was just a really wonderful experience for me as a reader. So, and we also got to know a little bit about Orochi's backstory. Just a little bit. Just a little pinch, but nothing too spoilery. Like, she has to go to sleep for 100 years to get her full powers back and to remain young, or if she doesn't get her rest, she'll end up dying like an average human being. But like, my question is, how is she immortal in the first place? Like, if I remember correctly, the first time she ever went to sleep was in the 1700s or the 1800s, and the last time she went to sleep was 1900, and since this story took place in the 70s, that would have been 70 years ago, which I thought was extremely fascinating. So I really wouldn't mind seeing an origin of Orochi explained, but I'm also okay with it remaining a mystery. So yeah, I really hated the Monzen's siblings' mother because she was just an overly critical bastard, but both stories really had me at the edge of my seat, and that Umezz twist that was flared in like near the end of this story really surprised me, and it had a really nice message of why people should not pursue revenge, because you don't know what you're going to end up with as a result. So I'll just leave it at that without going into spoiler territory. So I have to say, my final thoughts on Volume 4, both stories were really strong, and both had a great pace. Each and every page had me at the edge of my seat. So at the end of the day, I give Orochi Volume 4 by Kazuo Umezz a 9.4 out of 10. This is Kite562 signing out, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, everybody. Later.